There are certain places in the world where peace is not a concept. It's a short commercial break between arguments. And if you want a masterclass in that kind of living, where love is real, loyalty is stubborn, and silence is treated like a foreign government, then you end up in a queen's living room where the air conditioner is broken, the fan is basically doing interpretive dance, and the temperature has climbed so high that even the furniture looks like it's sweating. This is not the kind of heat that makes you romantic. This is the kind of heat that makes you question whether humans were supposed to live upright, or if evolution made a mistake and we should all just lie flat like pancakes until October. On this particular day, the house feels like it's been preheated. Mike, young, idealistic, permanently exhausted, tries to exist in the living room without melting. Gloria returns from the subway like a soldier coming back from battle. Except her war story has no heroism, just humidity and strangers pressed so close that personal space becomes folklore. Edith, sweet as ever, is somehow calm in the heat because Edith has discovered the ancient spiritual technique of thinking cool thoughts, which sounds wise until you realize her definition of cool is basically remembering her mother and refusing to acknowledge that the laws of physics are happening. Archie comes home from work with the kind of energy that says, "I have had a day, and now I need the world to suffer respectfully in my presence." He wants to talk. He wants attention. He wants dinner. He wants cold air. He wants all of it immediately. And the fact that he cannot have it immediately is, to Archie, proof that civilization is collapsing. Now here's the thing about Archie. He doesn't just get angry. He turns anger into architecture. He builds a whole house inside his head where he is always right. Everyone else is always unreasonable, and the thermostat is personally insulting him. He slams doors like the door owes him money. He opens the fridge and yells at Mike for letting the cold out, as if cold is a pet that will escape and run down the block if you don't keep the door shut. Mike tries to reason with him, which is like trying to calm a thunderstorm by explaining weather patterns. And because the universe loves timing, right as Archie is trying to turn the living room into his personal courtroom, the new neighbors are becoming a presence next door, Frank and Irene Lorenzo. They are friendly. They are warm. They're the sort of couple that believes social life is a gift you share generously. Frank, in particular, is the kind of man who cooks and sings and seems to treat joy like a daily vitamin. For Edith, this is wonderful. For Archie, this is suspicious. Archie hears Frank singing and doesn't think, "What a happy man." Archie thinks, this is an attack. He describes the singing like it's causing alley cats to file complaints. The idea that someone could sing because they're happy offends Archie's sense of how reality should work. In Archie's world, happiness must be earned through suffering and served with a side of quiet. Edith, of course, loves Irene. Irene is handy. Irene fixes things. Irene is capable. Irene knows how to repair something without calling a repairman who will talk down to her like she's asked him to split the atom with a spoon. Irene has read the metaphorical forbidden book of home repair and now turns screws with the satisfaction of someone who has defeated 1,000 condescending ma'am. You wouldn't understand. Edith is thrilled because Edith has found a friend, and friendship to Edith is like oxygen. Archie, however, doesn't see friendship. Archie sees invasion. He sees Edith spending time next door and interprets it as abandonment, the way a king might interpret his subject visiting another kingdom. So the situation is already primed. Heat, crankiness, pride, and a singing neighbor. And then Edith does what Edith does. She tries to make people happy in the most direct way possible. She invites the Lorenzos over for dinner. Not just any dinner, a special dinner, a gourmet dinner, a dinner where Frank cooks, because Frank loves cooking and Edith believes this will create harmony like a magical casserole of diplomacy. This is where the comedy begins to sharpen, because gourmet dinner in that living room is basically like introducing a foreign policy summit into a family argument about ketchup. Frank arrives with enthusiasm and charm, and he starts preparing dishes with names that sound like they were invented specifically to frighten Archie. Frank is making French cuisine, counting in Italian, and generally behaving like a man who has never been personally betrayed by a potato. Archie, meanwhile, is watching this like a suspicious security guard. He doesn't trust food that has an accent. He doesn't trust soup that arrives cold on purpose. He doesn't trust parsley placed on a plate like it's decoration instead of something you throw away before eating. The centerpiece of a disaster is a cold soup, vichyssoise, served exactly the way Frank intends, chilled. Frank explains that if you warm it, it weeps, which is a lovely poetic way of saying you're ruining it. But to Archie, it sounds like food is now emotional and therefore un-American. Archie takes one look, one sniff, and you can practically hear his internal siren. Cold soup is not soup. Cold soup is a prank. In Archie's mind, soup is supposed to be hot, heavy, and capable of knocking out a horse. Cold soup is what happens when you forget your soup, and it becomes a regrettable puddle, not something you serve guests proudly like it's a masterpiece. So Archie reacts in the only way he knows. He refuses to cooperate politely. He grumbles. He complains. He makes faces. He behaves like someone has tried to poison him with fancy. Edith tries to smooth it over, but Edith's smoothing is like trying to iron a shirt while it's still being worn by someone sprinting. Frank tries to stay cheerful. Irene tries to keep the mood pleasant. Mike and Gloria exchange the kind of looks married couples exchange when they're silently counting down the minutes until they can escape upstairs and pretend they live somewhere else. Archie's hostility isn't just about soup. It's about Edith enjoying someone else's company. It's about Archie feeling left out in his own house. He's jealous, but he would rather eat cold soup twice than admit jealousy. So he disguises jealousy as principle. He disguises insecurity as criticism. He disguises, I miss my wife, as where is dinner? And why is my air conditioner still broken? And why is that man singing like he's auditioning for the neighborhood opera? And then Edith, sweet, soft Edith, does something powerful. She confronts him, not with yelling, not with cruelty, with clarity. She tells him that every time she makes new friends, Archie turns it into a problem, and she isn't going to let him ruin it this time. She likes Frank and Irene. They like her. They're her friends, and she wants to keep them. Now, in that moment, Archie is forced to do the one thing he hates, reflect. He doesn't like reflection because reflection suggests he might be part of the problem, and Archie's worldview cannot survive that kind of information. But he does, in a begrudging way, step back into the room and attempt to behave, which for Archie means he lowers the hostility from open warfare to passive-aggressive diplomacy. And just when you think, okay, this is the peak of the chaos, life says, no, we are only getting warmed up. Ironically, because everything else is too warm already. Because soon enough, the door opens again, this time not with gourmet cooking, but with an old man in pajamas. Yes, an old man in pajamas. In the street, in the middle of a normal day. Edith finds him like he's a stray cat that wandered into her heart. His name is Mr. Quigley, and he has escaped from an old folks' home because he's tired of feeling useless. He's tired of being treated like he's waiting for his life to end politely. He wants freedom. He wants dignity. He wants a phone to call his daughter, who, unfortunately, is not home and apparently not excited to hear from him. Edith brings him inside because Edith cannot see a vulnerable person without trying to rescue them. It's not a choice for her. It's a reflex. For Archie, this is not a rescue. It's an ambush. Archie comes home and sees a stranger in pajamas in his living room. And his face does that thing it does when his brain is trying to process reality, but the reality is too ridiculous to accept. Archie wants the story explained immediately, preferably in a way that ends with, and then he left. Edith tries to explain with her signature style, which is warm and confusing and filled with side details that make the story feel like it's taking scenic routes. Archie tries to interrogate Mr. Quigley directly, and Mr. Quigley, to his credit, is not intimidated. He's old, yes, but he has the kind of blunt wisdom that comes from surviving long enough to stop caring about politeness. Mr. Quigley talks about money, social security, the reality of aging in a system that pretends to support you while quietly counting the cost. He's not just a comedic guest. He's a mirror held up to the fear Archie refuses to say out loud. That one day, Archie won't be the loud man in the living room. He'll be the old man in pajamas trying to be seen as human. Mr. Quigley's daughter is cold. Archie calls her, and ends up realizing that family love isn't guaranteed just because biology says it should be. And the whole situation forces Archie, Mike, and Gloria into an argument about government, dignity, and whether the country actually takes care of people or just helps them starve slower. Archie tries to resist the conversation because it threatens his comfort. Mike pushes it because Mike is incapable of seeing injustice and staying quiet, which is both his best trait and the reason Archie calls him Meathead, with the passion of a man who thinks ideas are contagious. The debate gets sharp, but it stays within the boundaries of a family that, despite everything, is still family. It's humor with teeth, because underneath the jokes is something real, the fear of becoming invisible. Eventually, Mr. Quigley's friend Joe arrives to pick him up, and the twist is delightful. Joe is Josephine. They are not married, and the reason is painfully practical. Marriage would cost them money. Archie, who expected traditional answers, gets slapped with modern reality, and even he can't quite argue with the logic. Mr. Quigley leaves with a final piece of advice to Archie that lands like a quiet hammer. Don't ever grow old. Archie laughs it off the way he laughs off everything that scares him. But you can feel the fear sitting in the room, even as the jokes continue. Now, if that were the end, it would already be a full day in the bunker universe. Heat wave, cold soup, singing neighbor, old man in pajamas, existential dread. But this house does not do one conflict at a time. This house multitasks its chaos. Because soon, Gloria gets a gift, a statue, a reproduction of the kiss. It's art. It's romance. It's the kind of tasteful thing that makes Gloria feel like she's bringing culture into the home. She's proud of it. She's excited. She sees it as a symbol of love, of beauty, of being a modern adult who has things in her living room that aren't just functional. Archie sees it and reacts like someone has placed a scandal on his coffee table. The statue is nude. Archie is offended. Not in a thoughtful way, not in a nuanced way, but in the way a man is offended when his worldview has been challenged by a piece of plaster. To Archie, this isn't art. It's indecency. It's the end of standards. It's the beginning of chaos. He wants it out of the house immediately. Gloria refuses. Edith is caught in the middle, wanting peace, but also wanting Gloria to feel respected. Mike tries to argue logic, which, again, is like trying to stop a bull with a PowerPoint presentation. Archie escalates because Archie always escalates. He makes rude remarks. Gloria snaps. And then Gloria delivers the most powerful weapon in a family argument: silence. She declares she's never speaking to him again. Archie pretends not to care, but he cares the way people care when they're too proud to admit it, by becoming more stubborn, more loud, more determined to win. Dinner becomes a battlefield. Gloria refuses to pass him ketchup. Archie demands it like ketchup is a constitutional right. Edith suffers quietly because Edith hates conflict the way some people hate noise. It makes her soul itch. Meanwhile, the irony is that Edith is trying new recipes, even serving potatoes au gratin, and Archie reacts as if cheese and potatoes is the reason France lost wars. He turns dinner into a lecture on how foreignness equals weakness, even as he's sitting there benefiting from the fact that someone cooked him food at all. Then Frank Lorenzo enters again, like the universe's favorite agent of disruption. Frank reveals that the statue wasn't exactly a gift forever. It may have been a loan, and he wants it back because it's his favorite. Archie, sensing an opportunity, hands it over instantly, as if returning the statue is not just returning property, but restoring moral order to the universe. Gloria sees it as theft. She sees it as betrayal. She sees her father using technicality to win a culture war. She is furious. Edith is heartbroken. Mike is, as always, ready to argue until the sun burns out. The Lorenzos, feeling guilty for the turmoil, try to bring peace offerings. Archie also tries to bring a peace offering, but Archie's idea of art is, let's say, aggressively questionable. He buys a different statue, one that is intended to be tasteful, loaded with distracting elements, designed to keep people from noticing anything dirty. He presents it like a victory, like he has solved art permanently. Everyone else looks at it like it might be haunted. The humor here isn't just in the objects. It's in the psychology. Archie doesn't just hate the statue because it's nude. He hates it because it represents change. It represents a world where his control is not absolute. It represents Gloria growing up and deciding what belongs in her life. Archie fights it because fighting it makes him feel powerful again. Gloria fights back because she wants respect, not permission. Edith wants peace because she believes love should be a soft place to land, not a constant argument. Mike wants reason because Mike thinks reason can save people. Frank wants harmony because Frank believes food and singing can fix anything. Irene wants friendship because Irene is a decent neighbor. And in the middle of all of it, the broken air conditioner hums like the soundtrack to a nation's small domestic crises. What makes this whole sequence feel both funny and oddly profound is how the arguments are never really about the thing they're arguing about. It's not about cold soup. It's about Archie feeling displaced. It's not about the statue. It's about control and respect. It's not about a stranger in pajamas. It's about fear of aging and being discarded. The living room becomes a stage for every anxiety people carry but don't know how to name. And because they can't name the real fear, they argue about vichyssoise instead. And yet, despite everything, there's something tender underneath the noise. Edith keeps trying. She keeps loving. She keeps offering kindness even when she gets yelled at. Gloria, for all her anger, still wants connection. She wouldn't be so hurt if she didn't care. Archie, for all his bluster, reveals in quiet flashes that he does love them. He just doesn't know how to express it without wrapping it in sarcasm and stubbornness. Even his jealousy of Edith's friendships is, at its core, a confession. He wants to matter to her. He wants her presence. He wants the warmth of home, even when the air conditioner is broken and the temperature is punishing everyone equally. And if you stand back and look at the day as a whole, it's almost poetic. The house is too hot, so everyone's tempers run hot. The soup is cold, so Archie's outrage runs hot. The statue is nude, so Archie's embarrassment runs hot. Mr. Quigley's life is cold in the way society can be cold to the elderly, and that coldness creates arguments that burn. Everything is temperature. Everything is comfort and discomfort. Everything is people trying to find dignity in small spaces where their pride keeps bumping into furniture. So when the night finally settles and the doors stop slamming for a moment, you realize the real punchline. This family survives because they cannot quit each other. They fight like it's their cardio routine, but they also orbit each other like gravity. They complain, they insult, they sulk, they threaten silent treatments. They demand ketchup like it's medicine. But the next day, they'll still be there, still arguing, still cooking, still singing somewhere in the background, still trying in their loud, messy, stubborn way to be a family. And maybe that's why it works as comedy that still feels human, because it's not about perfect people. It's about people who are too real to be polished. People who love each other badly sometimes, but love each other anyway. People who don't know how to say, "I'm scared," so they say, "I want dinner." People who don't know how to say, "I miss you," so they say, "Where have you been?" People who don't know how to say, "I'm proud of you," so they say, "Get that thing off the table." And in the heat of Queens, with a broken air conditioner and a cold soup that isn't supposed to be warmed up because it weeps, that messy love is the one thing that doesn't melt.